Hello, everyone. So I hope in week one you've kind of focused on the brown M&Ms that you see in your workplace in regards to occupational safety and health. If not, keep working on it. You'll find it. Just kind of happens anywhere you are. So this week I'd like to talk a little bit about workers' compensation. We're going to do some other things too. So let's start with kind of historically. The idea was that there were no laws and regulations, and employees took all the risk. In other words, there's inherent risk of a job where you accept the responsibility for that, and it's still true today, to a certain degree. So, say for instance, you work in a juvenile detention center and you get hurt, then yeah, that doesn't mean that there's any neglect or liability on the organization because it's an occupational nature of the job. You might get hurt. It's violent in jails. But at the same time, that does not mean that if you're injured, you don't deserve workman's comp for it. So there's that. So laws evolved over time to not only protect the workers, but also to hold organizations accountable to make sure they have safety protocol. So there's standards. And that's in all kinds of industries. Think about, like, I grew up in Claymont, Delaware, the oil refineries or the iron workers, steel workers, and all that. You just can't have injuries just happen willy nilly there and say, oh, that's just part of the job. Sorry. What protocol is in place to ensure their safety? And to be honest with you, you want to do it anyway because number one, you care. I hope you do, right? And also because lack of labor or loss of labor. But in our earlier formative development of the United States, there's plenty of people that would be happy to take your place. Now, not so much. People vote with their feet every day and move on. So I have a couple stories I put in here for you in the week two overview about how injuries are managed. And I just gave some really simple and practical examples. So there was one guy. I used to work in a warehouse during college during the summer, and it was a lot of work, hot work. I think the fifth tier was like 110 degrees. It's terrible. Really encouraged me to continue studying. Let's put it that way. I'm like, yeah, this is my future if I don't succeed, and it motivated me. But it was still honest work. But there's one fella, and they would call him Iggy because he was ignorant about the world. It's probably not the nicest thing, nicest reference to someone, but Iggy did what he was not supposed to do. And if you go to anything above the first level of a shelf, and there's several, you go ahead and you get the ladder and you pull those records, and they're about 50 pounds. Microfiche are about 100 pounds. For those of you that don't know what microfiche is, I don't even want to. You can ask me later if you want to know. It's just basically film, which is pictures of articles, papers, and documents. They were very heavy. So Iggy went ahead and went on the second tier of this shelf and kind of stepped up on it to grab a box, fell, twisted his ankle. And I remember someone from there who's a firefighter putting him on a cart and carting him to the front desk. It was a weird day. So I never thought we'd see Iggy again. But the issue with Iggy was that they didn't really train us on that. They could tell us this, but we didn't sign documents if we didn't acknowledging that we know not to do something like that. There's no training. Then technically the company is relatively liable. So the fact that he was able to go ahead and still work, they had to put him on light duty. So he did other things with a cast on his foot and all that. So he actually got away with it, sort of. But he shouldn't have done that anyway. He slipped and fell and broke his ankle. Now, when I worked Operation Safe Streets with the Wilmington Police, my road partner, and his nickname was Stickman, long story, he fell through a banister while chasing someone. I was not there. I think I moved on at that point. He damaged his knee really bad, so he was immobile for a while. So he was on workman's comp for a while, and they finally decided to pension him out. So that's what happened to him. Temporary disability is the most common. Someone's disabled because of injury at work. They can return to work, but meanwhile, what happens is you have to give them disability pay, and companies pay for this anyway, insurance wise. So um, basically, that's the most common. Permanent disability, however, is a matter of there's all kinds of details of that. Someone eventually will have to go on disability. Maybe it's through state disability. I'm sorry, federal disability, and a supplement from the organization. The last week's scenario about the gentleman that had a car part fall on his head, that's a true story. This person did follow all safety protocol in week one. He did not. That was just more of a scenario for it. So, that's some practical examples of what the text talks about. Makes it a little bit more simpler than maybe what you would read in the book. So, here's kind of the way I look at it. Remember PPT, policy, procedure, training. All right. I don't think I joke. I think I made this up. I didn't make it up. But yeah, anyway, PPT, policy, procedure, and training. There's certain things I won't do out there in my former world as far as training without a policy and procedure. So again, we need to train everyone on the AED and how to maintain it and all this. The defibrillator, like what policy do we have? What procedure do we have? It's going to be hard to do training without a policy and procedure on that one. Or what do we do in a where someone gets injured in the workplace? How do we respond to that? So they also may call them standard operating procedures. But the idea is that training's great, but what about policies and procedures? What do we need them to do? How can we teach them so that when they're in a situation that it becomes second nature because they're familiar with the policy and procedure, and they're able to go ahead and train and then, basically implement what they're supposed to do based on the policy effectively. But here's the other issue too. Just because we do a policy and a procedure and a training doesn't mean we're effective. Off you go, have a good day. Um, you have to enforce it. You have to actually monitor. Management needs to monitor to make sure individuals are following that safety protocol. Because otherwise, people are going to forget because they get in their lives, they're getting their work, they're overwhelmed and all that. So it's important to go ahead and make sure that there's follow through with leadership. Otherwise, there's a good chance it's not because anything neglectful of the employees necessarily, but it's mostly because we get just trapped into things and we can only hold so much in our brains, right? So, in that respect, we have to make sure as managers and leaders to make sure that everyone's following safety protocol. Simple example: when I worked for the state of Delaware, we had a long-term care hospital. It's called Delaware Hospital for the Chronically Ill. I hope the heck they changed that name. It's a terrible name. I think at one time we were trying to vote on what the name should be. And as a joke, I tried to get Sunnyvale in there. And the person who reported to me said, Mike, you're not naming this place after the trailer park and Trailer Park Boys. But they lived on Sunnyside Road. So Sunnyvale would work, in my opinion. If that ever gets through, that would be hilarious. But anyway, getting back to business here. It's easy enough for a nurse or a CNA to treat one patient over to the left, forget to wash his hands, and then go treat the patient over to the right, which could be a contamination issue and all that. So if someone were to flag that, and they would not only have to go to training. We had online training to go through proper hand washing protocol, which, I'm not a medical person. I have no clue about that stuff. And I'm like, this seems a little weird. And then I watched the video myself, a training video, because I had to create the curriculum. I'm like, you know what? I'm the jabroni here. I've been washing my hands wrong my whole life. because people forget their thumbs. If you think about it, they do. So it's about, basically singing the alphabet and scrubbing and really getting any materials off you, and then you go to the next patient, which makes sense anyway. Because why do you want that stuff on you? Anyway, even if you have gloves on, you never know, and how you take the gloves off and all that. So what would happen is someone would take the online training and then go to a nurse trainer and demonstrate that they can wash their hands properly. And again, it sounds silly, but the consequences for not doing it correctly are pretty dangerous, because someone could have MRSA or something like that. All kinds of stuff could happen there. So that's just one example that I've encountered during my time, working at a hospital as far as safety. There's much, much more than that. So I want you to think about that as far as the workplace. Training is great, but what about policies and procedures? So what you're going to do this week, your assignment actually has you develop a policy. Now, I'm going to give you the freedom to pick any safety topic you want. You can go ahead and research, benchmark, whatever, off any other organization you want that you can find, and create your own policy. It is not plagiarism. What I ask you not to do is go ahead and copy and paste or AI, because I'll find out. But none of you will do that. But I feel kind of obligated to give that warning. I really want you to go think about your organization or an organization you would like to work for, and just write it. I'm not going to take off points. I want you to feel it. I want you to really internalize it. And I want you to be able to say at the end of this course, or when you have an interview or next week at work, hey, boss, guess what I did, in class? I created a policy. What do you think of this? And again, I'm going to be very open-minded, because I don't expect a perfect policy. It takes time, takes revisions and all that. So I don't expect perfection. I expect creativity and research, and to demonstrate and acknowledge that you kind of get the concept of what we're doing here. Grammar is very important, so make sure you focus on the grammar. And again, that there's going to be wordsmithing no matter what you do. So you have a good draft, in the workplace as an employee when you're creating a policy. It's going to need to be wordsmithed at least a couple times. It's just the way it goes. Doesn't matter how many doctorates you have; it's still the same thing. Even on my end, it's not going to be perfect. Now, I don't expect perfection, but I want you to relax and feel creative. So I'm going to help you with that. So this lecture might be a little long, all right, and that's okay. I just kicked myself out of the class. So I'm going to pull the template and explain things to you. And again, I'm here if you have questions. You want to have office hours with me, that's fine. We will succeed. Just put in the time. It'll be okay. So the week 2 assignment is called Create a Workplace Safety Policy. So I have a template I kind of modified based on some benchmarks and all that. So first thing is the purpose. All right, section 1, you'll see in there, it's purpose. So if you want, open up the policy template and go back to this part of the video, and I'll get you through it. So the purpose has to do with, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this workplace safety training, or policy rather, sorry. The scope has to do with who's involved. It could be employees, managers, guests, vendors, whoever you think is in your organization this pertains to. Responsibilities. So what's management responsible for? Well, they're responsible largely for the implementation of policy, procedures, and training. And they're also, and then you can be descriptive about specific issues regarding your safety topic. That's all you have to do. And employee responsibilities, now that they've learned this, what are they expected to do? This is where I want you to just go research and benchmark off any policy you want. You can do it from your own work if you want. It doesn't make a difference to me. And then you create rules. You're the boss here. You are the boss. So the idea is, with general safety rules, what do you expect people do to maintain safety based on the topic that you pick? And again, you're not going to have it all complete right now. I understand that. It's going to look a lot better towards the end of the class, I assure you, if you really take it seriously. But create safety rules for yourself. What is it that needs to happen in order to maintain optimal safety? And what happens if an incident were to occur? That's number five, emergency procedures. How do you respond? I'm going to give you some tips. If an incident happens, an injury happens, you want to report it to OSHA within 24 hours. You also have internal policies, what they call incident reports. You definitely want to get that in 24 hours. Now, if you ever have to do this, I hope you never do, you can always add to it later, but at least get it in within 24 hours so the information is there. And if you remember something later, another detail, or someone else has another detail, you can always add to it. So that's part of the emergency procedure and the incident reporting. The other thing too is safety training. So you want to have a policy about safety training. I'm going to help you out with this. You may want to consider not just doing new employee orientation. You should do it in new employee orientation. But what about yearly refreshers? And they don't have to be like in the classroom. Some things may be like CPR recertification. Maybe in the classroom is better. But as far as hand washing safety, as an example, you can do that online, have them take a test. And then, if you want, you can go ahead and go around and demonstrate to me that you know how to do proper protocol for washing your hands in a medical facility. You can do that. So think about training and again, assessing return on investment. So making sure people not only pass the test, but can demonstrate that they can, do things safely. Disciplinary action, I really just be open minded about this. What happens is someone, after they've had training and acknowledged that they had the training and they violate a safety procedure, maybe with or without injury, what do you do? And it might not be like what you think, like you write them up. It could be. You punish them. Maybe you want to start with additional refresher training, maybe a discussion with the manager, maybe continued observation. Let's go back to the hand washing example. So Sally Jane went ahead and worked on a station on a patient, and her roommate in the over here went to work on her without washing hands properly, so there could be some cross contamination. Okay, so they go to training, they pass the course, they demonstrate safe hand washing, and then the trainers observed X amount of times that Sally Jane has been able to do this. Great, that's wonderful. So say it happens again, what do you do? It could be continued training, it could be coaching and counseling, it could be a write up, So I'm asking you just to be creative and decide. It's not always about punishment. Uh, it could be, but it's not always about punishment. If you start seeing the same thing happening with other employees, so say I'm a nurse trainer. I am not, but say I am. I see the same thing happening with other employees. My question would be, well, what's management doing? So if you want to go back to management responsibilities as far as hand washing, then I would say, well, this is symptomatic of a larger problem. And if one person's doing it, chances are other people are doing it too. So it may just be a lack of oversight. And then I talk to the manager about it. And then some individuals that don't want to be safe and they could hurt somebody, say forklifts or something like that, we may want to let them go. So the last part, the ninth part, is review and updates. So review has to do with, say in a year, have any incidents happen with this particular safety protocol? How did we address it? Then we can ask, what else do we need to do? Do we need to update our training? Do we need to have it more often? How can we, promote and advertise, so to speak, the importance of being safe in this regard? So again, I know it sounds like a lot. It's really not. I don't expect perfection here, so you don't have to worry about that. What I'll do is give you suggestions, and it's just a matter of, hey, I thought of this, I thought of that. The topic you choose might not be my area of expertise, but if I see something, I'll just mention, hey, think about this, think about that. But just make sure the grammar is really good. Just write well, and you're good to go there. So I'm excited to see what you do with this, and this is going to carry us this policy throughout the rest of the class. Because remember, we're getting conditioned here for policy, procedure, and training. And in the end, what you'll be able to do is create a training course where you can focus on policies and procedures and educate your employees, proverbial employees, on safety measures. Yes, we have to do it online. This is an online course, but there's many situations where you may have to do this online, even though in the classroom it's more important. So let's be hypothetical. If you have a training topic that is better on campus, so to speak, then what you do is you create a course that's online that preps them for what they'll do on campus. So maybe you're doing hand washing protocol again. You discuss it, you do a presentation about the proper procedures for washing your hands, and say, we will meet on such and such a day, and you will demonstrate how to wash your hands properly in a hospital, something like that. So I'll work with you. I'll coach you on that. Don't worry about it. I understand this is a little bit of work, but it's good work and it's going to be fun work. I'll see you on the board. Where did your screen go? Okay, there it is.